All right, thanks, Mike. Welcome. It's been a long time since seen a lot of you guys. So good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, lots gone on since we last met. First, really excited to finish out this recruiting class. I know we got a chance after the first signing day, which has really become the real signing day, to talk about the majority of the class. But certainly excited to welcome Chandler, Josh Eaton, Reggie Grimes, all three of those guys. Certainly, we'll be here to answer any questions about them individually, but obviously three important players to kind of top off the class for us. Certainly to get a quarterback, which as we continued to evaluate that position, felt like that was the right thing to do, and felt like we kind of had the guy we wanted all along that fell back into our lap. Certainly with some of the situation that went on with Arkansas and Coach Morris, and so obviously it was a tough situation for that family, but then ended up, I think, turning into a great thing for both. We were certainly excited to get Chandler here, and I know Chad's excited to get started at Auburn. So felt very fortunate to be able to get a guy that honestly was our favorite quarterback in that class from second one. Reggie Grimes, very, very exciting young defensive player. He actually watches his high school film. He played a lot of tailback, which you love seeing for a guy that's 6'4", 240 pounds already. But great athlete, has a great pedigree. Is just kind of one of those elite edge guys that we were really, really thrilled to get in here. And he's going to be a really, really nice addition to that front. And then obviously Josh Eaton was certainly one of the top corners for us from second one. And we've continued to preach in the defensive secondary, adding length and adding guys with documented speed, and he fits those too without a doubt. So we'll be excited to get those guys here with the rest of the class. About half our class came in mid-year, and it was great to get those guys off to a great start. I really feel like that's something that we've learned a lot about in the last few years. It's these guys coming in mid-year is different. It's a totally different approach. They kind of get thrown into the fire right away, as opposed to the players that come in summer and they're only maybe taking one or two classes and they kind of ease into everything. And when you come in mid-year, it's certainly not an ease in. It's a different transition, and I've been really proud about how this group has handled it so far. So staff has done a good job planning. These guys have handled it well, and our returning players have done a great job of helping those guys get acclimated. So very, very promising young group. So excited to get going with those guys, and certainly excited to get on the field with spring ball coming here in just about a month. So the rest of the team has had a really strong offseason, certainly here in the beginning. A lot of gains in the strength department. We're getting ready to start our coaches stations week next week, which is kind of a legendary week around here. Has been for a long time, and one of the traditions that we certainly carried forward. And so, be a chance for our team to kind of all get together, compete. A lot of mental toughness. A chance for our coaches to certainly get back and kind of heavily involved on a day-to-day basis with our guys, and so. Excited about that, and then we'll have 2 weeks coming up of workouts after our coaches stations week, and then into spring ball. Plan is right now to get a couple of practices before spring break, come back after spring break, get the rest of the practices, and then as you guys saw, we've announced going to have the spring game on April the 18th, which we're fired up about. We're working on a game time. I know we'll get that announced here for you guys shortly. So it's been a lot of fun. It's certainly exciting to see this team starting to come together with the new additions and some of the young guys that we really felt like that have progressed. And so yeah, we can't wait to get started with these guys with coaching stations, and certainly can't wait for spring ball to get here.
Okay, we'll begin with Jason Kersey.
Yeah, Lincoln, you mentioned that Chandler was your kind of favorite quarterback all along. Early on when you offered him, did you think it was going to be hard to get him with his dad being in Arkansas? And then can you also talk about how that kind of came together?
Yeah, well, I knew it was going to be a factor. And families, and we've dealt with coaches' sons before, and sometimes that's families do not want that, and sometimes if it's a great situation, they do. And I felt like all along that if Chandler didn't go play for his dad, that he would come here. We had a great relationship and thought it was a great fit. And frankly, we got to the point in this class where we said if we get Chandler, then obviously we're gonna take him. And if we can't get him, I to be honest, I didn't find another quarterback out there that we really fell in love with and we thought was the right guy for us. And so as time went on, obviously the situation at Arkansas happened. Chandler and his family reached back out to us to see if we had interest, which we certainly did. And had good visits with him, his family. It's great dealing with the family that's been through this process, and understood it, and it just ended up being the right fit, I think, for everybody in the end.
Eric Bailey?
Lincoln, when you were hired, you were 31, and you sat next to Coach Stoops when he announced your addition to the staff. What's it like now sitting in the chair you're at and introducing a 31-year-old DeMarco Murray to the staff?
Well, there's no question who the best athlete on the staff is now. It's. I think about that some on these days, because I certainly remember all of that, and kind of crazy to think all that's happened, in the time since then, all the success and the change of roles and all the fun that we've had, all the great things that have happened. So, but it excites you because I think there's a lot more of that in the future, and both of these guys, I know we'll talk about them both here in a minute, but both DeMarco and Jamar were, I just don't feel like we could have done any better. Both just the right guys, the right kind of people, the right kind of recruiters, coaches at the right time, just exactly what our program needed.
First Billo?
Lincoln, you were hit transfer portal hard, especially on defense. Did you see it coming at all?
Yeah.
How's that going to affect strength?
We did see it coming. I think it's a combination of, one, this day and age, you're going to lose a few guys in the transfer portal. I don't care who you are or where you are. It's going to happen. And then second, I think some of it is a result of our recruiting there continuing to improve, better younger talent. And then I think also, just talking purely scheme fits for a couple of the guys. I think there's a few guys that certainly were recruited to, by previous staff for a radically different scheme, and this scheme was just not a great fit. And then I think we had a few guys at the end of the day that were certainly just looking for maybe a better chance and better opportunity to compete. And so I don't know that there was like one overlying factor that, why we had so many. There were certainly several that we knew were coming or had an idea that they were coming. So not a surprise. I think we're dealing with it, in the best way that we can, like a lot of people. A lot of coaches this day and age are struggling to get to 85 scholarships. And, for the general public out there, everybody, you would naturally think, well, if you lose a scholarship player, you can replace him. And that's not necessarily the case. We have a hard cap of 25 per year. And you may have 30 scholarships available, but you can only bring in 25 new players. And that's counted whether it's a high school player, a JUCO player, or even, a graduate transfer. And so it's, I know it's something that rules, the rules committee, the NCAA, coaches, ADs, everybody's looking at, because we're in a lot better situation than most places with it.
Joey Helmer?
You've now got 3 coaches on your staff that also played here. What kind of impact can and does that have?
To me, it's never the reason why you hire somebody, but it's certainly a nice benefit. Guys that have lived it here and know what this place is about. They're guys that chose here and chose to be here. And a lot of those guys had a lot of great options when it was their time to come out. And so, they can kind of share their journey, certainly with our current players, with our recruits, have a history with our fans. I think it's a really, really nice bonus, but the key is finding the right individual. And if they happen to match up, then all the better.
James Hale?
Lincoln, DeMarco was a great player here, but a lot of people didn't feel like he'd ever get into coaching. And so when he jumped into coaching, did that grab your attention? Did you know a lot about him? How did this really come together since he's only been coaching for 1 year?
Yeah, no, I mean he's a guy. I felt like I knew a little bit just from being here because I heard so much about him from second one. Just you knew the kind of player he was. I mean, everybody saw that, but I think the kind of person he was, the kind of worker, the guy that just kind of all around was excellent. And and see him translate it into a great NFL career, then be able to jump right into a broadcasting career and, go right to calling games. I mean, and do so well with that. And then I knew through, he had spent a little bit of time up here, and then certainly, obviously, he's very close with Coach Gundy, and knew that he wanted to get into coaching, and it didn't surprise me that Coach Sumlin gave him a chance at Arizona, with his history and with his pedigree. And in talking with some of those people, even before we had a running back job open, it was very apparent that he had made a strong impression in a short amount of time, which is no surprise. I mean, he's done that in everything that I've been aware of, everything he's done since he got to OU. And so we had a good meeting after our running back job came open, and there was no question he was the right guy.
Kerry Murdoch.
Lincoln, you talked about the players that weren't a fit that transferred out. How much pressure did that kind of put on you guys to make, the evaluations, to bring in, this class defensively, and how much excitement was there knowing that you were now being able to recruit to a system kind of for the first time?
Yeah, it was exciting. It was certainly different, and it's going to get more different in a positive way as we go on. But you could feel the results of making some of the jumps we did defensively. I mean, there's no. Again, I know you guys have gotten tired of me saying it, but it feels like recruiting offensively after the 2015 season. I mean, it was just we've had some success, some big jumps with a lot of the same players. We're not as good yet as we're getting ready to be, but now we feel like we can go and have a great shot with anybody. And now those players can look and see the direct results. And I mean, if you're a high school recruit and you sit there and say, look what they did. They went and jumped, in some cases, 80, 100 spots in the national rankings in a lot of different major categories defensively. They did it with largely the same players in a number of months. What can they do with me in 2, 3, 4 years? And that's the same question that went through Kyler Murray's mind and went through Marquise's mind and went through CeeDee Lamb's mind and on down the line and Creed Humphreys. I mean, those are the same things those kids thought about, and then they chose OU and have all reaped the benefits. And so this class defensively was a huge step in that direction, and it's going to get better.
Did you see some just personally see some evaluations where maybe the guy isn't 5 stars, but you saw what the coaches were looking for that made you feel more confident in what
I would say in this class, it's always interesting, and everybody wants to judge classes when they sign, which is the absolute worst time you can judge a class. That's always yet to be seen. I would say in this class that we had more on both sides of the ball, maybe guys that for whatever reason weren't highly ranked by recruiting service that we were absolutely thrilled with when they committed and signed with us. And so some years they go like that. I think you got to be confident and very assured in what you're looking for and the guys you target. And there's a lot of guys that we signed that we wouldn't trade for anybody.
Tyler Palmatier.
Lincoln, you guys announced the date for the spring game today, but the success of last year, the way, at least the perceived success of having it at night, is there any talk that it could be at night?
It's a possibility. It is. We're going to have a couple of cool things happening around it, and there's certainly a lot of organization. So hopefully we don't have to change it 2 or 3 days out, but we'll adjust if needed. But yeah, that's certainly a factor. There's no question the night atmosphere last year brought a unique kind of buzz into the stadium for a spring game. And we've talked a lot about how our fans were so great to handle the change and our administration, everybody. And so it's a factor, but there's a couple other things that are very important that day too that we got to work around.
And kind of another spring-related question. I was just curious, have you talked to Jalen at all? Have you been able to gauge whether he'll do his pro day here or somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I've talked to Jalen, doing well. Been able to stay in touch with him and a lot of our guys that are, getting ready to make that next step. So I'm going to let him handle that part of it, but I know he's enjoying the process and doing a great job so far.
A few more before we bring Jamar and DeMarco up. Jenny Carlson.
Hey, Lincoln, another question about the spring game. You seem to really like the Friday aspect of last year, too. Did you give any thought to potentially having a Friday night spring game? And if not, what were some of the factors in that?
We did kick it around. There were some cool benefits of it last year. Again, the weather was the biggest determining factor last year. I think in our mind, we sat there and said, if we're going to do another night game, though, let's go ahead and do it on Saturday. For families, for those that that work Monday through Friday, being able to get here from maybe a little bit further distance, whether in state or out of state. So we're trying to balance the recruiting schedule because it is such an important weekend, and then also trying to do the best thing for the majority of our fans. So we thought the weekend maybe gives a few more people an opportunity to get here and enjoy obviously the game, and then again there's going to be a lot of pretty cool things around it as well.
Gary Neiman.
Lincoln, I want to ask you about resources. It seems to become it gets to be a bigger deal every year, the budgets and staff sizes. And I mean, we used to ask Bob all the time about facilities. It seems like now we're asking coaches about resources, what they've got. For you to keep up with the likes of Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and the money that's pouring into the Big Ten and the SEC, how concerned are you here? You're supported here, I know that, but I mean, how concerned are you that you keep up with what they've got to offer in terms of just resources and helping you do that job?
Yeah, no, good question. I don't think concerned is the right word because I know the support of our fan base, our donors, our administration. I know that, I think we're very aligned in where we're headed, but I think everybody realizes that we've got to continue to push forward. We've had a great run in the last several years, both on the field, what we've done facility-wise. There's been so many positives, but we can't sit back and just think about, we have one of the top facilities now, this or that. We've got to keep pushing, and that's kind of been our message from day one. Is you got to appreciate the great things and appreciate the success and all that because it is hard to come by, and I think the resources are a part of it, certainly. Us continuing to do our job at a high level and continuing to get better as a program is a part of it, and it takes us all. I mean, people want to continue to have the success that we've had. If we want to continue to push to take the next step and to keep winning championships and to keep competing for and eventually winning national championships, then everybody's got to be going the same direction, and everybody's got to continue to push forward. And I think we've got a group that's ready to do that. And frankly, this place wouldn't be nearly as appealing as it is to me or some of these great coaches that we have here if we didn't have that, but we do. And but the key is we got to keep pushing, all of us.
Myron Patton.
DeMarco, recent player here, but also recent in the NFL. How much that play in the fact? I mean, he's going to get some notices just for if not OU, the NFL or both. Not that you had trouble recruiting running backs, but how does that help you? And another related question to last season: the guys suspended, are they going to have to miss games next season?
First question on DeMarco, similar answer to me about hiring a former player. It's a great thing, him playing in the NFL, having the kind of career he did, the name recognition, all of that. That's great, but that in itself to me is never the reason to hire somebody. You got to see somebody that's the kind of person, the kind of worker, the kind of coach, the kind of recruiter that you want, and then if they have those things, to me, it's just an added bonus. So, but certainly was not the reason that we wanted to hire him. But there's no doubt with our recruits, our current players. I mean, all these guys that grew up watching him play, and to say that's not a factor in those relationships, would not be accurate as well either. So I think it'll be a great benefit for us. As far as the other guys, we'll get to that at a later date. There's processes ongoing, so I don't have anything further right now.
Okay, last one, Ryan Aber.
Lincoln, going back to DeMarco, one, how much of a relationship did you have with him before? And two, what are the benefits and the challenges of a guy who, one, came into coaching late comparatively, and also that only has 1 year of coaching?
Yeah, our relationship, I would say, was limited. You know, from my perspective, I knew a lot about him as a player, and then, like I said, I learned a lot about him even before getting a chance to spend a lot of time with him up here. You know, having the guy that been in the meeting room the last 5 years with the guy that recruited him and coached him, you know, you know a lot about a guy. And so, yeah, and then DeMarco came through at various times through the last several years and had a chance to meet him and spend some time around him. You kind of get a feel for his presence and the kind of guy he is. Yeah, and then I was, you know, I went into, you know, when we sat down and interviewed DeMarco, I went into it saying, look, I'm interviewing this like this is some guy I've never seen play ball, that I have no idea where he went to college. I just want to see what the coach is about. And it was it's like with, you know, really good players, a lot of times you can see it like right away, like you just know, there's no doubt. And you could tell that with him as a coach. I mean, that from second one, you could tell he was well beyond his years, that he had, I think a lot of players think they know what coaching is about, and they maybe weren't near as perceptive or when they were players, and maybe didn't pick up on as much as they thought they did, and then they get on the other side of it, and it's totally different. And I think DeMarco's one of those guys that probably took a lot from every single experience. It certainly appears that way, and has been a quick riser, and it was really kind of a no-brainer. And I would say the same thing about Jamar. Jamar had certainly a different path, but another guy that, you know, Alex and I sat down with him for a few minutes, and it was, again, when you just know, you know. I mean, I've never been one of those guys that's going to sit there and interview 20 people. That's not me. I've always been a little bit more decisive with the hires we've had here, and these two guys very quickly. I knew within talking to these guys for 10 minutes that I wanted these guys on our staff, and thrilled to get them both.